lowering TCO and rapid deployment with MS Project Server 2010. We'll go ahead and get rolling since we do have quite a bit to cover today. Thanks for attending. Basically, we're going to focus on Project Server 2010, of course. However, this is going to focus on a pre-configured solution leveraging Project Server 2010. And since Project Server 2010 is built on SharePoint Enterprise 2010, you'll of course get all those wonderful benefits as well. Just a brief introduction about who we are. We are MS Project Now, Silver Certified Partner focusing on Project Server and Project Professional, upgrades, migration, implementation, consulting, support, and training, you name it. We wear many different hats when it comes to supporting Project Server. Also, all our folks that are working here at MS Project Now are certified Microsoft consultants, as well as some of us are actually PMP certified from PMI, professionals and instructors. Why us? So there's a number of reasons, and we'll make this PowerPoint deck available to folks after today's webcast. We do have a success guarantee, guaranteeing that you are satisfied with the services and the solution that we deliver. We also establish long-term relationships and try to be very responsive. Don't necessarily look at folks as a client, but rather a partner of ours. Also have quite a bit of industry expertise, knowledge of the solution and all the solutions that we deploy as a part of Project Server, and lastly, we provide exceptional value. So today's webcast is about a solution that's called Pro EPM Now, Professional Enterprise Project Management Now. It's a hosted and a subscription-based service that utilizes the Microsoft Project and Portfolio Management Platform. It is a pre-configured solution with dashboards and reports and views that provide and enforce standardization to help organizations gain visibility into enterprise resources, schedules, and costs. The out-of-the-box configuration of this solution leverages all the expertise and knowledge gained throughout the many implementations that we have all done here at MS Project Now throughout our careers. And what we're going to do is get right into a demonstration of the tool set. So I'm going to again just switch my view here. And we're actually going to access a demonstration environment in this case. And I'm going to go ahead and switch now. And in a brief moment, if your screen hasn't already, it will momentarily refresh. And when it does, we will be on the home page of our solution called Pro EPM Now. And we'll take this demonstration as though folks haven't seen Project Server 2010 before. Therefore, when you do log into the web component of Project Server, meaning Project Web App, depending on your role within the system, that will determine the data you get to see with regards to projects, resources, and tasks, as well as the functions you get to perform on that data. And for the purposes of today's demonstration, I am logged in as an administrator, which means that I will be able to see all the data within the system as well as perform any function within the system, and it just makes it a little more practical for me to actually demonstrate the application to you so you don't have to watch me log in and out as different users throughout the demonstration. Now what we can see on the home page here is there's a push of information in this reminder section. There's information with regard to tasks, timesheets, approvals, status reports, issues, and risks, and this is all dependent on your role within the system. If I am a person who has been assigned work on a project, I will have tasks that show up to me, and it will have you have X number of new tasks assigned to you. If you click that link, it'll take you right to what's called the task area, and you'll be able to view those that are assigned to you. Timesheets, if folks happen to be using the timesheet mechanism within Project Server, those items will show up here as well, whether or not you have submitted them. If you're an approver, meaning a PM accepting pending updates from team members, or maybe a resource manager approving timesheets, those approvals will show up here in the approval section. Status reports we'll gloss over. Basically, there's a web-based status report mechanism in the tool. And then lastly, issues and risks. If you happen to be assigned to any issues or risks, they will show up here as well. And therefore you will be alerted to those issues and risks when you do log into the home page of Project Web App. Now there's quite a bit to this tool. This configured solution, we basically focused on providing a configuration to help you manage your projects better. And when I say manage your projects, I notice I left out the portfolio analysis capabilities. We did not turn off the portfolio analysis capabilities. However, there isn't a configuration behind it. It's there for you to use. It just requires a little bit of configuration to use it. So what we're going to focus on today are basically those interactions with Project Web App that would allow you to manage your project successfully. Now, to initiate projects within Project Server 2010, there's a couple different ways you do it. Many folks are familiar with the method of using the client, Project Professional, and we'll just go ahead and launch that client briefly for you here. Launch Microsoft Project Professional. It's very, very similar appearance. If you haven't seen it in a long time, basically the biggest thing you're going to notice that's different is the ribbon is now a part of the client, and you can see the ribbon at the very top of this particular screen. And basically it's supposed to help us logically lay out the menu options and make them easier for us to find, because what Microsoft found when they actually surveyed individuals who use the product is that they were asking for features and functionality that were already a part of the tool. And therefore it really made it clear to Microsoft that, well, our tool has most of what people are asking for, it's just that they cannot find it. And this ribbon layout definitely helps people find it easier. Okay, again, this is the client. This is where we would initiate our projects from. And there are a couple different ways to do it. You can see that the tool starts off with a blank table here for me, and I can start entering tasks in here. Design, build, test, deploy. We can enter them in like this. Another way you can create your projects within Microsoft Project is to select File, New. And then what you'll notice in the Available Templates section is that there's a My Templates button here for me, and if I select that, I'll get the new dialog box, and there will be two tabs here, one for personal templates, meaning those that I have created personally and they're located on my machine, and then there's going to be a tab for Project Server templates, alerting us to anything that may have been created and saved as a part of the organization, and therefore these templates would be available to anyone using Microsoft Project. I selected the upgrade project, clicked OK, and here's my basic template already created for me. Work breakdown structure, has a certain number of work packages to it, and probably some milestones and things of that nature to help enforce some standardization. You'll also notice that in the resource names column, we already have some placeholders in here, and these are called generic resources. Basically, they are the skill or the competency that is required to perform the activities of the given task. And therefore, when your folks actually create projects utilizing templates, if we pre-populate the templates with the skill required for the activity, it makes it easier for your PMs to find people who can do the work. And let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to navigate to what's called Build Team. And this dialog box actually shows quite a bit of information. We're going to focus on two things here. Number one, the left side of the dialog box shows me all the resources in the organization that I have permission to be able to see. And on the right side of the dialog box are all the resources that are currently a part of the team. And again, like I mentioned to you before, you can see that these are basically generic placeholder type resources. If I were to want to find folks who can actually perform the role of consultant, I would highlight consultant in the right side and click match. And when I do, you'll notice that the resource list on the left actually changed quite a bit. Now I'm seeing a subset of resources, and these are actually resources who have a skill associated with them of consultant. And I can show you that in the customized filters here. If I expose it, basically by clicking that match button, it inserted criteria here for filtering on a field called primary role, and this is a field that's basically assigned or tagged to each resource in the organization. And what the tool actually did is say, well, look for all resources within the primary role field where the value of consultant is. And by doing that, and I'll collapse this filter back down, we were retrieved those 5 different resources. Now, we found the people who have the skill set to do the work. Now we need to understand, do they have the availability to do the work? I can highlight the resources on the left side and select this graphs button in the lower portion. And what's happening now is that a view is being launched, and a view that's actually launching me into what's called the Resource Center, and I'm switching the current view to focus on remaining availability. And when I do, again, here are those resources we had selected, Jeff, Ray, Steve, and Willis. And we can see the different colors, and the different colors correspond with the vertical bar here. And the vertical bars represent availability to work on projects. And it's basically looking at the time frame that I currently have selected, as well as the units or granularity, which is currently months. And since it's months, and since people have a calendar associated with them that states that they can perform about 8 hours a day of work, naturally we're seeing roughly 160 hours of availability for each month. These resources are therefore currently not assigned to anything. If I scroll down a little bit farther in the view, I can actually see more information for these resources. Consultant, I can see Jeff, Ray, Stephen, Willis, and like we said before, currently there's no projects that they're assigned to, but if they were, those projects would actually show up down here, and you'd be able to determine how much work that they're doing on a specific project, and that would help us determine, we know what their capacity is. That's based on a calendar. Their availability is basically going to be the delta between the capacity to do work and what they're currently scheduled to perform. So I did two things. I found out that these individuals can not only do the work, but they also have capacity to do the work. Therefore, I can highlight the resource that I want to use on these assignments on the left, keep consultant highlighted on the right, select this replace button in the middle. You'll see now Jeff is added to the project team. I click OK. In every situation where Jeff was a resource, consultant was a resource, now we see Jeff is assigned. So we build our projects this fashion with a template, and then when we're done building the project, naturally we would navigate to File and Publish. And when we've published the project, that would actually make the project visible within Project Web App, and therefore we could start managing and tracking that project at that time. What I'm going to do, however, is close out of Project Professional. We showed you the one way to initiate a project. Let's look at another. Let's navigate to Project Center. Project Center is a great place within Project Server 2010 to analyze project data. Executives, project managers, maybe even resource managers, it's a great place to be able to analyze project data. Currently we're looking at a number of different projects, and again, this is all based on our role in the organization. What we get to see here, we are looking at projects grouped by the different statuses that they can have in our organization. We can see some that are in initiation, others that are in planning, and then we can see others that are actually currently being executed. And we also have a number of KPIs going off to the right here as well. Tool supports KPIs, graphical indicators, which can be based on either automatically calculated metrics or they can be manually set. Quite a bit of flexibility. Different views can be created within the system to allow us to look at this project information in different ways, and I'm switching to a projects by program view in this case. And upon refresh of the screen, we should be looking at the different projects in the organization, but the grouping data point this time will be by program. There we go. Now we can see the projects within asset management. Under there we can see the corporate website, and then we can see the CRM projects and infrastructure involvement, etc., etc. So quite a bit of information here. And again, these are some of the views that are part of this pre-configured views. Program is part of the suite of pre-configured fields that are in the tool set. So really not much that a client has to think about when they want to implement Project Server, because this is all here for you. We merely work with you to determine, well, what programs do you have going on in your environment? Or what statuses can your projects be in your organization? And we update those values in the lookup tables appropriately, such that this information will be pertinent to your organization. Now, we came in here for a reason, and the reason was to show you how to initiate a project within Project Center. Well, when we navigate to Project Center, the thing that we can do is expose the options beneath the New button here. And you can see that there are several options here. I can either create a project in Project Pro, I can import from a SharePoint list. Great, those are great features. There's also a sample workflow that comes with Project Server 2010. And therefore, if I were to initiate a sample proposal project, it would create a project and it would actually adhere to the sample proposal workflow. And then we have three other types that are here available for you. Pro EPM Now, Basic Project Plan, and then there's two others. Project Plan with Template V2, and then a Project Plan with Template. And these are really starter points for an organization to get you going. And what we're actually going to do is initiate Pen Project with Template version 2. And here's basically what our project request screen is going to look like. And you can see that the fields that are required, right now only the name is required, and you can note that by the red asterisk here. And we'll call this Dan's Test Project Request. Now you can see I can enter a description in here. Great information. Some of the fields that are part of our configured solution are right here. You see program, department, location, sponsor, and stakeholders. And these are very diverse pieces of metadata that many organizations use, and you're going to really see how this comes into play when we demonstrate the reporting capabilities later on. I can say that perhaps this is part of my CRM program that's going on in the organization. As far as the responsible department, this is going to be IT. The location, where's this project currently located? Where is it being executed? Where are the major stakeholders? And location can serve many different purposes, right? We'll put Chicago. Sponsors, we can put anybody here that needs to be here. And then lastly, we can enter the stakeholders as well. This is great information. We'll put Joe, Bob, Sue, Tom, Leslie, and so forth. We're just capturing some basic information. So this really is just our request form at this point. Now that I've finished entering the required data, we'll go back to our project ribbon here. And I'll just go ahead and select Save. Now, and it looks like I entered an apostrophe, the name, and project server doesn't like certain special characters to be in the name of a project. Therefore, we remove the apostrophe and go ahead and click Save again. And hopefully this time we'll have a little better success. We can see that it's being created. Wonderful. So it's finished creating, and the reason I know it's finished for creating is because of this. When I look at the available PDPs or project detail pages over here, now I see the full suite of those detail pages: proposal details, business case, schedule, and then the project status summary. Let's go ahead and cycle through these. You notice in the project ribbon there's a Next button. It's great to use this Next button. I'll tell you why: because it saves the current form and as well as scrolls you to the next one. Right? So I select Next, and basically in this case I'm brought to my business case project detail page, and at this point I would enter in information pertinent to a business case that's established at my organization. We're looking for some background information, critical success factors, the envisioned role of the PMO, risk mitigation, project assumptions, and then goals and objectives. So ideally what would happen is we would fill out this information, this background information, and this would be information that is actually going to be produced as part of a report, one of the reports available to you as part of the package. And it could be saved and reviewed by your PMO. So great, important information. When this screen is filled out, we'll go ahead and cycle to the next available screen here. Now you notice when we created this project, it said Pen PMO project with template. Well, that's the great thing about these EPTs is you'll notice that this is that template that you just saw me create a project from within Project Professional, except we did it right within the web. And because we associated that project template with this project type, there we go. We have our entire work breakdown structure. I can continue to edit this project now in Project Web App, and if you notice in this status bar is telling me that this project is currently checked out to me since, and then the date and time. Therefore, this project is checked out to me. I can actually make changes to it, and I will. I'm going to highlight row 6, go complete, click the insert button, and if we need to put in extra tasks here, right? Because most of the time you're going to start with templates if possible. However, you're always going to have the need to add additional tasks, remove additional tasks, or rename additional tasks. There's going to be that necessity for you to be able to do those types of things. Now what I'm doing is I'm just going to highlight something here. I created this task, determine software availability. You can see in the Gantt chart, however, no predecessor and successor relationships, and it currently just went right to the start date of the project. Well, let's create the relationships. Highlight the task before and after. Click on the chain link. Now you can see we do have a relationship here. Task for some reason is still floating at the beginning of the project. Well, that's because we're working in the web, and when we're working in the web, the scheduling engine isn't automatically running. Therefore, we need to select Calculate from the ribbon, And when we do, we can see now the scheduling engine ran. Task, predecessor, and successor relationships now reflect reality, and we can see our new task is floating out here sometime toward about the middle of April or so. So we added our task. Now, same process as before. If I scroll over to the right, you can see the resource names, still those placeholders that we saw before. Well, can we build our team in the web? Well, absolutely, we can build our team. Let's go ahead and do that. First, I'm going to click the Save button here. I always am an advocate of saving my work regularly. And when we finish saving the work, what I'm going to do is navigate to the project ribbon up top. And on the project ribbon, you're going to notice there's something called Build Team. Same functionality that I showed you just a few minutes, except this time we're in the web. Same process, right? I'm going to click Consultant, like I did before. I'm going to select Match. There are the same resources that we saw before. Jeff, Ray, Stephen, Willis. Well, we already know who does have capacity. Actually, all 4 of them did. So I could select any one of these resources if I wanted to. And with Consultants still selected, I can click Replace. Now I can see Steve is over here. Let's save and close. Right, and I'm not going to build the entire team here and show you how to replace all the resources. You get the point after replacing a single resource is what the capabilities here are. Scoot this information over, and there we go. So now we can see where there was Consultant. Now we see Steve. Steve's a part of the team, right? So he was replacing all those assignments that have Consultant. And that would be a process that I continue through at this point. For instance, I go back to Build Team, and again, find the resources that you need. I need an executive, or I need an investment banker, or manufacturing. Highlight the resource, select Match. It's going to bring back the available resources, and I can do the same thing I did before. Click the checkboxes in front of the resources and select Resource Availability, and then if they have capacity, add them. I'm going to click this Add button. You're going to see those resources get added. So now we have Quang, we have Scott, Steve, Tiddy, and Tom all added to our project. Save the team, go back to my project schedule again, and now when I expose the available resources from this drop down in the resource name column, there are all those resources, folks, that I just added to the team of this project. Now I could actually tick the check boxes in front of whoever I want to assign to this task, and now you can see that I went ahead and I assigned those 3 resources. And this would be the process. Initiated the project in Project Web App, come into the project schedule, add and remove tasks as necessary, build the team, replace resources, create my critical path. When I'm done, save my project. You can see the processing going on. Process waiting for completion. Save completed successfully. And then lastly, I would go ahead and publish the project. And what the publish action does is it updates the necessary database tables in the published database so that the views in Project Web App will reflect the most current data. And that is basically how you initiate the project within Project Web App. So it's a very, very simple application, very easy way to do it within the tool set. After these projects are created, we could assign resources to the tasks of the project. And by assigning resources to the tasks of the project, what happens is that the resources will automatically have timesheets that get populated for them. And what I did is I navigated to my timesheet here, and basically I can see that I am currently assigned to a handful of projects here. Number 1, the e-commerce portal development project, my sample project, and I'm also assigned to administrative tasks. What are administrative tasks? Well, they're actually just tasks that are not part of a project that has a finite beginning and end date. Therefore, they could be many different tasks. Currently, we see administrative, sick time, vacation. However, you could have end user support, you could have server support, you could have help desk support. There could be all sorts of administrative tasks that need to be tracked at your organization, and it would be advantageous for you to go ahead and create those types of tasks so that your folks can write down that they're actually performing these other activities in the organization. And it's not necessarily that we want to understand these granular things that our people are doing, but it's more so an understanding for us to understand the capacity of our organization. For instance, if I happen to be performing help desk support or server builds 5 or 10 hours a week for the next 5 months, I can actually forecast that time in my spreadsheet here, in my timesheet. And that way when folks go to assign me to project work, they're going to know that Dan's not available 40 hours a week. He's only available 30 because he's doing server support 10 hours a week. Therefore, it really helps quite a bit from that standpoint. It's very, very important. Let's go ahead and enter some time on my sample project on the design task, and this is the very, very typical timesheet that you would look at for the week of 4/2. What did I, Dan, do for work in this particular project? Well, you know, maybe I just did 8 hours across the board. However, Friday, and you know, I'm forecasting my sick time, right? I'm actually going to use it as vacation time in that case, I would assume. But in this case, just an example. Let's say it's Friday. It's 4/6. Entering my time in here, I worked 32 hours on the design task in my sample project, 8 hours sick time because I was out on Friday. You ask yourself a question. Well, what if Dan did 32 hours on the design task? What does he have left to do? How much remaining work is there? Well, let's move that divider bar over. And when I do that, right, so here we are, we're looking at the design task. Okay, so let me scoot over here a little bit. Looking at this row, this was our design task. Currently not submitted, start and finish dates. Remaining work currently shows as 60 hours based on the number of actual hours done to date, so far 78. Because of the remaining work, we're getting a percent work completed 57%. Now ask yourself a question. Maybe I just happen to be incredibly gifted and I finished these 60 hours in these last 32 hours I did. What do I do with my timesheet? Do I just submit it and leave the 60 hours remaining? Well, ideally what you can do is something like this and actually change the remaining work to reflect reality. And that's just being very proactive as a team member to adjust remaining work. You are the one best qualified to know what your remaining work is, not your PM. And therefore, if you adjust it and submit this update to your PM, it'll make it that much easier for them to actually integrate into their project. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Did work on that project change the 60 to 0 hours remaining? At this point, folks, I would send status, click on the send status, click on all tasks. I'm done. Now this comment's coming up because currently you notice up here I have the comment on submit selected. If I didn't want to see this comment box, I could clear that checkbox. I'd never see it again and be done with it. You see the information is loading. There's your status, right? So currently awaiting approval at this point. Therefore, this update's been sent to the PM. PM now needs to review and approve it. Now again, folks, remember, this is the way the system's going to be configured for you out of the box when you get it. Right? So all this is done for you. You merely get your projects in the system and start using it. All right, well, since I happen to be not only the person submitting the time, but I'm also the person approving the time, when I navigate to the approval center, I'm going to actually see that pending update, and here it is. Remember, it was the design task on my sample project. Okay, great, so far so good. There you go. There are the actuals, if you recall, right? We did it the week of April 1st. 2, 3, 4, 5, 32 hours. If I move this divider bar off to the right, and let's scroll over a little bit. Okay, let's take a look here. Well, remaining hours, like we said before, I set it to 0, if you recall, right? Before there were quite a few hours of actual work done. We did more, so now we're adding to that particular figure. So again, this is my part as being a project manager. I see somebody submitting 32 hours of work. They updated the remaining work to 0. What are the impact to my project of accepting this update? Well, I don't have to wonder. I can actually tick the checkbox in front of the design task and select the preview updates button here. And by doing so, we come up with this really very useful graph which will actually show me some very interesting information. The previous duration prior to accepting the actuals, and then what the duration is going to be after. 21.75 days was the duration, now it's 19. If you remember, I went and changed the remaining work from 60 to 0, therefore I pulled in the finish date of the project by a couple days. But if you look at the amount of days that I pulled in the actual duration of that one task, it's by approximately 3.5 days, 16.75 days to 13.25. right? Not only that, but you can also see where the project was going to finish based on the black bar here, and then the current blue bar. We can see how much that the project is currently pulled in the finish date based on that task being on the critical path. Therefore, now as a PM, I've reviewed this update. I'm comfortable with this. What PM wouldn't be comfortable with pulling in the finish date of their project, actually, especially if it's going to actually be for the same or less budget. And in this case, it's going to be less because the person worked less hours. So we'll go ahead and accept. And again, you see the same comment here, and that's because I have the comment checkbox checked here. And now I went ahead and accepted that time. And it looks like, I'm going to switch back, folks. It looks like my sharing switched out a little bit for us here. Let me get back in there. I'm not sure what happened there. But we're resharing the environment. You should get it back in one moment. Okay, so your state should be just about populated now. Back in my demonstration environment, I accepted the time. Now let's go ahead and show you what does this project look like in Microsoft Project. Dan just submitted time against this project. You know, I want to actually understand, you know, what does it look like now? What does the project look like? So I'm going to look here again. It's called My Sample Project. I went back to my timesheet. I'm going to launch Microsoft Project, connect to PWA, file, open, double click to retrieve the list. That means I'm getting it directly from the server. My Sample Project, you can see it right here, currently not checked out. I'm going to open it up. This is a very simple project. I created one simple task to it. All right, there's a design task, 110 hours of actual work, 100% complete, because remember, I zeroed out what? Right? I zeroed out remaining work. Now you can see that there's 0 hours of remaining work. So there is the cyclical process of creating a project, assigning a resource to it, and then the resource timesheet being populated, resource submits time against timesheet, and then subsequently PM accepts and integrates it into the project. This is that very standard process that you do within the tool now. Let's close out of this project, discard our changes. And naturally we would try to get all our projects within the system, and we would plan and manage these projects over time. Let's take a few minutes and look at the Resource Center. Now, like I said before, the Resource Center is a great place to actually view and see what people are working on and what they have for remaining availability and whether they're over allocated. And I have a few resources selected here, the check boxes. My two options are to view their availability and review their assignments. So I'm going to review their availability, and currently, here we go. Here are those 6 resources I have selected. Aaron, Adam, Amy, Barry, Ben, and Bob. And currently we're looking at this date range, 1/1/11 through 2/28, so a 2-month span. We're looking at the information monthly. I'm looking at the assignment work by resource, and currently I can see that Amy is assigned some work as well as Adam is assigned some work. Well, let's go ahead and change this up then. Let's look at assignment work by project. Okay, here are the 2 projects: infrastructure deployment template, travel management system. Those are the 2 projects that those individuals currently worked on. Well, let's put this all together, right? Let's put this all together and try to find out a little more information. Again, Amy, there she is right there, and we can see that not only is she at the 0 plane, but she's below the 0 plane. And we're going to show you what that means in just a second. Adam Barr, we can see that he doesn't have 160 hours availability because he's currently assigned, it looks like approximately 60 hours or something for that particular time period. Let's go to the bottom portion. Remember, I mentioned this to you before. Bottom portion of the screen is going to give you more information. Here's Adam. Adam's capacity to do work for these 2 time periods are 168 hours and 160 hours. What 2 time periods are you talking about, Dan? Well, these 2 right here, right? So January and February. Now, he's currently assigned to the Travel Management System project. You can see right here he has 0 hours for January, but he has 56 hours for February. Right, so we understand his capacity to do work is 168 and 160 respectively. Because he's assigned 0 and 56, when we look at the delta between capacity and demand, because that's what scheduled work is actually demand, we can see 168 for January because he's not scheduled on anything, but we see 104 for February because, well, his capacity, 160 minus what he's assigned, 56, equals 104 hours. Therefore, we can clearly see what he's working on. Same thing with that Amy here. Her capacity, it's the same, 168, 160. Big difference here is that on the infrastructure deployment template, she's assigned 448 hours in January, 264 on February. So somebody didn't go through those steps that I showed you earlier. Somebody did not identify not only the skill set, but the availability to do the work. They just went ahead and found the person who had the skill and made the assignment. If they went ahead and reviewed and determined if this person had the availability, they'd see that, no, this person doesn't. We need to find somebody else. However, as a proactive project manager or resource manager, part of my job would be to constantly look at my project schedule or review my resources, capacity, and demand and try to relieve any of those overallocations. Now, to find more information, the resource assignment part of the tool will give us more information, and currently we can see, and we'll deselect this work bin here. Information is grouped by resource and then by project, and that's going to be in our custom group section here. Therefore, I can see Adam Barr, first resource, and I can see the project he's assigned to, travel management system. Here are all the tasks he's assigned to. Here's the amount of work that's assigned to him. Now again, there could be several people assigned to this one task. However, as far as Adam's concerned, these are the number of hours that he's assigned. You know, we can see 8, 8, 120, 8, 128, etc., etc. That's Adam's work. Scroll down a little bit, we can see Amy, asset change ownership, and then we can also see infrastructure deployment. That's the other project that she was assigned to. And if you look in her work column, you can see 40 across the board on all these different tasks, and I will almost guarantee you that these aren't all finished to start relationships on these tasks. There are probably quite a few that are done in tandem at the same time, and that's why she's so overallocated. Currently, we're looking at this information time phased, looking at any actual work. If I change to scheduled work, we'd see what's currently scheduled. I can change this view if a Gantt chart is more meaningful for me to review this information. Again, we can scroll down to find Amy's information, find this project, highlight the task, and there we go. There's that clear picture. So I was speculating earlier, but now we know definitively, right? So there are 5 tasks right there Amy's assigned to, 40 hours each. Therefore, you know, we can see right there, she has 160 hours, or is it's even more, 200 hours assigned work to her during this one period, just on these 5 tasks right here. And I'm not sure if I continue to scroll through here, I'd find more issues on this project. So again, you know, tool's not going to raise red flags and say you cannot do these things, but the tool is going to provide you the information necessary to make you effectively do your jobs. Now that is going to take care of Resource Center. Closed out of the Resource Center. I'm just going to have to launch back up here at this point. And now we're going to spend a little time looking at the reporting. Many organizations are very interested in not only planning and managing and executing our projects and having successfully executed projects with regards to the deliverables of the project and the budget of the project and the schedule of the project. What organizations also want to understand is how are we tracking as an organization, and I'm going to show you a number of different reports in just a moment. First, let's call out the main end user reporting capability here for us, and that would be Excel. Microsoft realized that many end users tend to use Excel, and they're pretty proficient with the tool set, and that is why in Project Server, Excel is going to be our main reporting mechanism for our end users to create ad hoc reports. And what I'm doing is I'm navigating to the default templates that are created for us. And ideally, your end users would have access to this, and this is part of the solution. Therefore, if you were to engage with us and get the solution, you'd have these as well. I'm first going to create one quick ad hoc report utilizing Excel, just to show you how easy it is. And when you click on the template, Excel will launch. The connection to the data behind the scenes will be established, and once it is, we'll be able to see the list of fields here. I'm going to create a project that's going to show me information by department. Therefore, I clicked on Project Department in this case, and then when I did, we can see that here are our 5 departments: Finance, HR, IT, Operations, Sales, and Marketing. Well, what do we want to know? It could be quite a bit, folks. Maybe we're just interested in the cost. find cost in the measures, add cost to this report. We're in Excel, right? So we have all the wonderful capabilities that Excel provides to us. Conditional formatting, the ability to format the data, put the currency symbol in front of it. And there's my very simple report, cost by department. You can put a time dimension here. These OLAP templates are great to depict time for these reports. And again, same deal here, right, folks? I can go ahead and highlight the rows, put the dollar signs here. If we want to drill into more information, we have that information available to us. 2011 Qs 1 through 4, Q1 January through March, then we have the weeks, and then ultimately we'll have the days as well. So there's quite a bit of information here. Let's get rid of the time. Put our conditional formatting and our data bars back. So there's my simple report. These reports are great because they can be saved to SharePoint lists and they can be shared by other users, and therefore they would always have this updated information available to them. The other wonderful thing about these reports is that we can build upon them, create a very simple bar graph here. Again, cost by department in this case, and we can see the vertical blue bars represent the cost. We can see the cost that go through those departments. You can change these charts to whatever is more meaningful for you. Maybe you want to see it represented by a pie chart. Being a cell 2010, naturally we're going to have quite a bit of the formatting capabilities available to us. And at this point, this report really could be the basis of a dashboard report, whereas we could use this in one quadrant, the graphical element of the report, and we could use the tabular data in another quadrant of the report. So food for thought. I just really wanted to point that out. That's how easy it is to create reports within Excel. Let's go ahead and show you the end result. The reports that I'm going to show you next are all reports that are a part of this Pro EPM Now solution, and they're part of a EPM dashboard. You can see it here, and this dashboard has 4 pages: an enterprise KPI page, PMO dashboard, resource workload, and then lastly a 4th page called timesheet compliance. Here's a enterprise KPI dashboard. Basically we're looking at key performance indicators aggregated by a specific grouping element, and in this case it happens to be department. Right, so you can see the group by here, group by reflecting project departments. We give you the option to show your KPIs aggregated by program. Now I can see my key performance indicators aggregated by program, as well as the summary level. And the summary level and all this information we're looking at, folks, can be filtered based on these items here. You see we have a program filter, we have a department filter, and we have a project status filter. And therefore, if I wanted to say executives are asking for aggregated KPIs by program for only those projects that are in execution, well, I have the capability to do this, right? I just changed my project status to filter for only execution, and now we're seeing KPIs aggregated for just projects in the status of execution by program, right? So the whole philosophy behind these reports are not, what you see is all you get. The ability to be able to dynamically filter and change the groupings in these reports are really to help you out and be able to perform additional manipulation to them. Now I went ahead and switched back and decided to re-include all the different statuses in the projects. We currently have all the departments selected as well. What I did is I changed my grouping to navigate back to aggregating by department. And you can always ask yourself a question, which most folks do when they see a report like this. I'm looking at IT. I'd really like to see what is being aggregated to present these types of KPIs to me. All right, you don't have to ask yourself the question because these grouping elements are actually hyperlinks. Therefore, I can click on IT. Another report will be launched. And basically, it's going to be another SQL Reporting Services report here. And again, all these reports I'm showing you are part of the solution. Now we're going to be looking at the projects within IT. And here they are. So again, here's IT. And remember, whatever you were using for filters in the prior view, meaning if you were filtering by a status or a department or a program, those filters will be carried through to this report. This report's only going to reflect what you're seeing there. Since I wasn't filtering by anything, I'm showing all the projects within IT. Here are the project names. Here are the different statuses: execution, initiation, planning, percent complete, start and finish dates. as well as those KPIs now at the project level. These are what were aggregated up on that KPI roll-up. And then we have some indicator fields in the middle. You can see SR, BCR, and site, standing for status report, business case report, and site, meaning the project site. Well, let's show you those things. Let's look at this software development plan project. This has some enlightening KPIs here, to put it mildly. This status report link will actually launch a one-page status report. And again, this is something that comes with the tool, folks. You don't have to do anything special. It's already configured in there for you to use. Here's your simple one-page status report, enterprise status report for, here's the project, software development plan. Here are those KPIs at the project level, and here's a person currently logged into the system. You have the project leader information, meaning project manager, the sponsor, the stakeholders. You'll notice that the PM is actually a hyperlink, right? Meaning, well, again, what's going to happen if I click on this hyperlink? Well, what's going to happen is that a similar report to that IT report is going to come up, except this time, right? This time you're going to see all the projects that that project manager is managing, right? So now I'm looking at a view of everything that project admin is executing. Great report. So we're going to close out of that, go back to our one-page status report. Here's your project description. You remember this from one of the fields we saw earlier. Status summary, meaning why are we tracking as we are at this point in time. Lower left section has financial information, both by period and cumulative. And then the right column, combination of information, folks. First of all, at the very top, we have date information, the start and finish, the last time the project was published or updated, status date. And then we also have milestones, risks, and issues. And the thing that we did with this report is we parameterized and allowed the user to select how many milestones, risks, and issues show up in the report. And that way you have control over whether or not this fits on one page or rolls over to multiple pages. And that's why you can see in the header 10 of 12 milestones displayed, and that's because we chose to display only 10, so it'll fit on one page. But again, the click for more is going to allow us to access a report, enterprise project milestones for our software development plan. And in this case, we're looking at every single milestone for this particular project, as well as the health, start, finish date, percent complete, whether or not it's critical, and the cost and the work. We really tried to make sure that all this information was very, very readily accessible to you. Risks, 2 of 2 displayed, issues, 4 of 4 displayed, indicators representing the status of those items. More click for more links to look at the entire list of issues or risks, or if you want to look at a specific issue, you can click directly on the name of the issue, and this will drill us right into the issue in the project site. There's the item. Here's who it's assigned to. The status is active, the category is 2, and the priority is high, and that's why it had that indicator. We're going to close out of this view. The thing that we really tried to pay attention to was the ability of exporting these reports, and I'm going to export this status report to a PDF to show you just how well it exports to a single page. And there you go, folks. There's your single one-page status report. Fits very, very nice on a single page. You can send this as a hard copy to your manager, or you can email it as a PDF to your manager. And again, there's nothing special going on here. This information is pulled from the project schedule as well as the project site. So we're not managing anything outside of the tool at this point. This is what you're going to get. Okay, let's close out. Go back to the main page. Remember, we were on the Enterprise KPIs page. The next page is going to be PMO dashboard page. This page is going to represent information that would be pertinent for your project management office. And again, you can see you can filter the information by department and look at specific times. What we're looking at are a few different things here. We're looking at forecasted cost by status, and here is that in the upper left quadrant. And our statuses, you can see them here: initiate, through, closed, and then we have deferred and on hold. The work that is forecasted by the different statuses in the upper right quadrant. Lower left, forecasted cost by the different departments in our organization. And then in the lower right, we're looking at the number of projects in the different statuses in our organization. Now, since we're using Performance Point on this particular dashboard page, I can open this projects by status into its own window. Now I have all the real estate available to me to perform advanced analytics. And that's what I really love about Performance Point, is because you're not stuck with what you see. You can continue to perform advanced analytics of all different types here. For instance, let's right click on execution. And if I right click on execution, you can see I can drill down to different dimensions. For instance, I could drill down and look at the different programs that are currently in execution. And here we go. Now we're looking at the programs in execution, right? Maybe you'd like to switch this report type. Switch it to a grid or a line chart, or maybe even a pie chart. And I can very, very quickly change these reports on the fly. Okay. Again, here's the infrastructure involvement project. You can see it's represented in the bottom. And if I hover, you can see more data. Again, I can right click and drill down. Maybe you can look at the projects that are currently in that particular program, and now you're looking at the projects within that program. It's a great, great technology, folks. Even better, I can actually export this to PowerPoint or Excel. Therefore, if I happen to have a executive presentation that I need to provide for my upper management to show them all the projects that are currently execution or the programs that are in execution, it's very easy for me to pull this information out. And I've heard stories from all sorts of clients where developing these types of management reports takes so much manual effort and quite a bit of time. And even when folks finish developing the report, they're really not always 100% confident that the data is as accurate as you'd really want it to be. And therefore, that's why solutions like this are so helpful. That was the PMO dashboard. Let's look at the resource workload dashboard. If you're interested in understanding the capacity and the demand of the different types of resources in your organization, a resource workload dashboard page can be very enlightening. Using a couple different technologies here, both Excel services and Performance Point services. And again, yeah, as we said before, that allows us to perform that advanced analytics. Top left quadrant, capacity versus demand. Capacity is the red line, demand are the blue vertical bars. And we can see certain situations where we're well underutilized, and we can see situations where we're actually overallocated for certain folks, subject matter experts, our testers, even our trainers are almost at maximum capacity. Lower left quadrant, work by project graph. You can see your baseline and your work and your actual work information by the different projects. Your right column, folks, is going to show the work by role in a grid form. You can again see the different roles here, and you can see the capacity, and you can see the work items. And currently we're looking at quarters. As is the case with the other reports, we can drill into months, weeks, and days. And like we said before, right, since we're using Performance Point, okay, launch this into its own view. Wonderful, there it is in its own view. Currently, I'm really interested in understanding where are we using analysts. Well, let's go ahead and look at what programs analysts are being used on. Well, there you go, right? There we go, 992 hours in the infrastructure involvement program. Great information, folks. Again, as is the case before, you want to switch it to a different type of report, that's your prerogative, and you have that available to you, and I can always reset my view and go back to where I started. And lastly, in the lower right, work by department grid. And this time we can see not work by the different roles, but rather which departments actually are utilizing the most resources. And if you look at this graph really quickly, you can see that IT is by far the department that utilizes resources more heavily than other departments. All right, that is the third page in the dashboard, and the last one, timesheet compliance. If you happen to be using the timesheet mechanism like I showed earlier, and the timesheet actuals are applied to the projects, it's very important to have a report like this, because project managers are dependent upon resources submitting and getting their actuals updated in a very timely manner so that their projects reflect reality. And that's why this type of report is so great. You can see timesheets that are approved, in progress, not started, or rejected by different departments or by whatever other type of grouping element you want to utilize. That is the suite of reports. That is the conclusion of the demonstration point. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my presentation for just a couple minutes, and we'll wrap up and go ahead and take any kind of questions that you folks might have. Now, what's included, or how do you get started with the tool? Well, here's how you can do it. The demonstration, we actually just had a demonstration here. You register for the service, then a technician will contact you and discuss the requirements, meaning what do we need to update for these lookup tables for you. Then they would set up the system, we would provide training for your users, and then you would roll it out to your users. And this can be anywhere from 2 to 3 week process. It can be very, very quick for you. The services overview, baseline services, it's a hosted infrastructure with backup and recovery. It's a standard setup based on all the implementations that we've done. The users will receive live web-based training, and there's plenty of documentation of the configuration and user manuals and quick reference guides, as well as customer support from our support team is available to you as well. Extra services available if you require additional consulting, you want to leverage additional capabilities or change the configuration beyond what we have, or want additional reports, we're there for you and we can help you with that, as well as migrating a premise situation that you have today to the hosted solution. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this video will be uploaded to YouTube. You can look at this at another point in time, but these are all the views that are available to you. These are the different types of custom fields that are a part of the solution, and you saw most of these fields throughout the demonstration and the reports. The training, hands-on, instructor-led, based on best practices, our certified instructors, also very experienced instructors who have been using projects and Project Server for years and years and done training for all different types of organizations. Here's the training that is included. PMs will get a 12-hour session. Minimize the time required to manage your schedule while maximizing the benefits gained when you learn to apply these best practices. Team members learn how to enter time against tasks, enter and track issues and risks, and upload and manage documents. Functional administrators manage the day-to-day administrative capabilities and learn about basic customizations, i.e. custom fields and views. And lastly, executives, how to navigate to the dashboards and view and export project reports. The fees for the solution are on this slide. There's a one-time setup fee of $14.5, and then the monthly service fee of $600 actually includes 5 hours of support from us, MS Project Now, to make sure that your users and team are able to use the tool set and are acclimated to the tool set and using it as efficiently as possible. There are additional monthly hosting fees based on the number of users. Okay, so our fee of $600 plus whatever the hosting fees would be, and that would be based on how many people are utilizing the tool. You can contact us for a quote at any time. We can get that to you very, very quickly. And lastly, we'd like to thank everyone for your time today. Hope you enjoyed what you viewed today. And again, we will upload this video to our YouTube channel. You'll actually be able to access it. We do have that link on our website. And again, thanks for your time today. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon.